encyclopedia that's grown, all of this information that's in it, it happens to use the MediaWiki software. Same thing is true of Wikidata. What's valuable in Wikidata now, all those Q numbers, all of that content in Wikidata, that's sort of an instance of Wikibase. But yes, Wikibase can also be useful elsewhere. So then the question is, as you've discussed, why Wikibase? When does it make sense to use Wikibase outside of the realm of Wikidata? And when would it make sense to use Semantic MediaWiki? Well, I used to think of that as being, simply the matter of Semantic MediaWiki makes sense when you've got structured data that you want to store in your wiki, in pages in your wiki that can be queried across your wiki. And yes, they can also be queried using the API from outside of it. But it's data that's intimately tied to the pages within your wiki, and it's supplementary a data representation that's tied to the wiki text on the pages. And it's embedded. Wikibase is a repository for data that's, your pages are going to look like these lists of data attributes. It's not a user-friendly, from the perspective of just the casual reader, representation of the data. But even more important to than that is the fact that Wikibase has inherent in it the fact that data does not exist, what is in Wikibase is claims about data. So you can see, you scrolled. that in your, for your data items, you've got where it was found, when that piece of data was entered. There's provenance about the pieces of data. So you're making claims about data. The population of a city, you can never say a single value for the population of the city. In a Semantic MediaWiki wiki, you could, for a city, you would just say, this is the fact, this is the data. It's an approximation, right? Whereas in Wikibase, you would say, on this day, cited by, or in this year, say, found in this census, the population of Vienna is X. But 10 years later, there's another census, and they've got a different value. But all of those historical values, they are all the population of Vienna. They are all stored. They're all, so it's a different way of modeling the data. Both are perfectly valid and can be used. So then the really interesting question becomes, how can you federate that? How can you, in a wiki resource, use Semantic MediaWiki, use individual facts embedded in pages that can be queried across the wiki in conjunction with this richer data model of Wikibase, and have them coexist, have them be federated, be able to query across them, and use the right tool for the right job for what you're trying to represent within your wiki. And that's when I think it becomes very interesting, and I think that's where there's a wealth of work to be done.
I almost fully agree with one exception. There's the data type reference in Semantic MediaWiki that has learned from this Wikibase approach, and so you can store the provenance information of facts in Semantic MediaWiki. But other than that, you're right, and I think we should really talk about use cases, because what I don't want to have is institutions get excited about Wikibase, which is perfectly fine. Trying to solve a problem that is not as complex as the world. So, and it usually is not. So why would you use a software that tries to solve the complexity of the world inside your own organization? You have one claim that is the number of X. Maybe you want to have provenance, that's fine, but it's your knowledge base. It's not the shared knowledge base of everybody. So I just want to avoid that now, especially CLAM institutions all run for Wikibase without them really needing it. But the federation of Wikidata, this is a very interesting use case, and I think especially Semantic MediaWiki hurry to solve this problem. How to integrate data from Wikidata into your own wiki, and how to push data from Semantic MediaWiki to Wikidata. Because that's an urgent need for many institutions, and if we don't solve it, they will all have their Wikibase instances. Yeah.
Okay, and once again, I will be the linked data advocate. So I will say that Wikidata is not the only source of truth for datasets, of public datasets. And just one comment, and then I leave the mic. For me, Semantic MediaWiki is like Word, and Wikibase is like Excel. So don't expect anything visually appealing with Wikibase, because it's not the point at all. That's it.
Yeah.
Is there any more? Yeah.
Yeah, this question of which one should be the primary is something that really interests me, because the use case that I have has a lot to do with analyzing data and data visualization. And the kind of thing I would like to do is to be able to take data that's fairly easy to understand and then leverage it by grabbing all of the relations, for example, network analysis, grabbing all of the relations that are so nicely coded in Wikidata by all of these people out there in the world. And it's that kind of thing, starting from something that's fairly easy to understand and then leveraging that by going out to Wikidata. That really interests me. But I don't understand yet from the discussions whether it makes sense then to set up a Semantic MediaWiki instance, or whether one should just do it all using the visualization tools that the Wikidata people are starting to do. I mean, for me, it's really about where can I do the analysis, where can I do the visualizations?
Can I respond to this? And I like your comparison with Word and Excel amazingly, because there's one shortcoming in Semantic MediaWiki that I discovered, and I tried to hack it with sub-objects, and that's reification. Because the semantic web is inherently binary. There's one subject, one predicate, one object. But of course, the world is multidimensionally, exponentially complex. So you need to reify at some point. And I have introduced one level of reification using sub-objects. But at some point, this is like, I love your comparison. You know, this is like you can hack a table in Word. You can maybe even calculate within Word. But at some point, you have to move to Excel because it doesn't make sense anymore. But I also understand, I'm fully in support of Bernard's point. Some people use Excel to actually subscribe their child to kindergarten, which you know, Excel is the most abused software ever in this entire world. But it's also one of the most beautiful pieces of, you know, I started coding on Excel, actually. So the question is, and I'm amazed the richness of discussion you triggered with this thought. And I think they should be both, right? This should be Microsoft Office, because Microsoft Office contains Word and Excel. And you can both put into a PowerPoint. So on the first slide, you've got a Word file, and on the second one, you have an Excel table. So I also thought that since Wikibase is inherently, I think, you know, I haven't got my feet that wet with Wikibase yet, but I think it's closer to the original semantic web thought, and if it can be installed on the same wiki, and if we can use Semantic MediaWiki and its result formats for displaying that inherently more complex and more powerful Wikibase data, then maybe we can make you friends again, right? Between the LOD and of course your very good point that don't, you know, overdo it with complexity in a domain that doesn't actually need it. So that's it. I just wanted to. You deserve the last word on this because you did a great job there.
It was an interesting discussion, and probably there should be links to exchange data between Semantic MediaWiki and Wikibase data. So yeah.
Okay. I think you're going to have a lot of friends at the bar
Yeah.
tonight. Okay. Thank you very much.